Jack's boots crunched over the broken ground, each step raising clouds of dust that smelled faintly of burned metal and ash. The marketplace was a ruin, scattered with toppled stalls and shattered signs in alien scripts he couldn't read. Smoke rose in thin spirals from what remained of fires, and the distant sound of clanging metal echoed like a warning. The planet had seen better days, Jack thought, most likely better centuries. He moved cautiously, scanning the area. His mission had been simple: survey the abandoned colonies of Zorath 5, check for salvageable technology, and report back. Nothing in the mission brief mentioned abandoned alien children, yet that was exactly what he would find. The voice hit him first, soft and trembling, almost drowned by the wind. "Take them, they're free and worthless." Jack froze. He scanned the area but saw no one. The words repeated, softer this time, filled with desperation. He followed the sound, ducking under a collapsed metal awning and weaving through debris. There, in a small, crater-like hollow, he saw them. Two young aliens huddled together. Their skin was pale with a faint shimmer, almost like moonlight on water. Large eyes, dark and reflective, looked up at him. They were small, fragile, barely reaching his waist, yet there was an intelligence in their gaze that made Jack pause. The girl, older by a few years, clutched the younger boy to her chest, whispering words he couldn't understand. The sight twisted something inside him. Humanity had trained him for war and survival, but there were moments when instinct was stronger than logic. This was one of them. He stepped forward slowly, speaking in a calm voice. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Jack." The girl flinched, pulling the boy closer, but she didn't run. Jack crouched to lower himself to their level. He needed to show he meant no harm and that he was someone they could trust. "They said we're worthless," the girl whispered in broken words. Jack didn't understand her language, but the tone of fear and confusion was clear. He shook his head slowly. "No, nobody is worthless." "Not to me." The boy whimpered and pressed himself closer. Jack's communicator crackled, reminding him of his AI companion, Sigma. "Jack, warning. Unknown alien species detected. Environmental scan shows no immediate toxins, but pathogens cannot be ruled out. Recommend caution." Jack glanced at Sigma, then back at the children. "I know, Sigma, but leaving them here I can't. I won't." He reached out his hand slowly. The girl hesitated, then cautiously touched his fingers. The connection was fragile but enough to show trust. He lifted her first, then the boy, holding them close. Their small bodies trembled against his chest, but the fear slowly gave way to cautious curiosity. A sudden noise made Jack spin. A group of scavengers appeared, shadowed against the broken structures. They were tall, armored in patchwork metal, their faces hidden behind masks. One pointed a weapon at him. "Those are ours," the scavenger shouted in harsh clicks. "They belong to the market. You cannot take them." Jack's mind raced. He had no desire to fight, but he would not let anyone take these children. He assessed the situation. There were 4 of them, armed with primitive energy rifles. His blaster was small but reliable. He had one chance. "Listen," he said, keeping his tone firm. "I don't want trouble. Let me pass and nobody gets hurt." The leader stepped forward, tilting his head. "You are human. You cannot understand. They are property. You will obey." Jack's pulse quickened. He could see the desperation in their eyes, their impatience to claim what they thought was theirs. But he also knew their weapons were slower, clumsy. He drew a small device from his belt, pressed a button, and a bright flash of light erupted. The scavengers blinked, momentarily blinded. Jack didn't waste a second. He bolted, dodging flying debris and energy bolts. The children clung to him tightly, their small hands gripping his arms. He felt their fear but also their trust. It was a fragile bond, but it was enough. He reached the edge of the ruins, where his ship was waiting. The sleek human vessel looked out of place among the broken alien market, but it was his sanctuary. He swung the children inside, sealing the doors as the scavengers shouted behind him. Jack, Sigma said. Threats detected. Suggest immediate launch. He nodded. Agreed, take us out of here. The engines roared and the ship lifted off, leaving the ruined marketplace far below. Jack watched the planet shrink into the distance, feeling a mixture of relief and concern. These children were clearly intelligent, but they were also vulnerable. Someone, somewhere, had labeled them worthless. That idea was abhorrent to him. He set the ship on a steady course to his remote station, a place isolated enough to avoid immediate detection. As the children explored their new surroundings, Jack noticed their keen observation. They touched the controls, tilted their heads at the blinking lights, and seemed to understand the basics immediately. They're smarter than they look, Jack muttered, more to himself than anyone. The girl looked at him, her large eyes reflecting curiosity and trust. She spoke again, brokenly, trying words he could barely understand. I help you, Jack smiled, heartened. Yeah, you can help. I think we'll all learn from each other. Days passed as the ship traveled through space. The children adapted quickly, learning words, gestures, and routines. They weren't just survivors. They were observers, thinkers, and surprisingly resourceful. Jack began to see why someone might have been afraid of them or called them worthless. Their abilities were subtle but remarkable, a blend of empathy and intelligence that was hard to measure but impossible to ignore. One evening, as Jack prepared a meal, the girl approached him with a small device she had found on the floor. She pressed a sequence of buttons and a holographic map projected in the air. Jack studied it, astonished. It showed the local sector, hidden pathways, and even potential threats, information he hadn't discovered himself. You understand this? He asked, incredulous. She nodded. Learn, watch. Jack realized then that he had rescued more than 2 children. He had rescued beings who might change the way humans saw the galaxy. Their worth was immeasurable, but the galaxy was never quiet. While Jack was learning to care for the children, the scavenger group had not forgotten them. They traced the ship's energy signature, following at a safe distance, waiting for the right moment to strike. Jack's sensors finally picked them up, small craft, agile and fast, but few in number. Sigma, Jack said, tension in his voice, we have company. Confirming, scavenger fleet approaching, suggest tactical maneuvers. Jack nodded. He had faced threats before, but now it was different. He wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting them, these beings who had been called worthless. The first attack came suddenly, energy blasts hitting the ship's shields. Jack maneuvered with practiced skill, dodging and weaving through the asteroid belt nearby. The children watched, eyes wide, but they remained calm, almost as if they understood the danger and trusted him to act. Then the girl extended her hands, palms glowing faintly. Jack froze. He hadn't seen anything like this before. A wave of energy radiated from her, disrupting the scavenger ship's targeting systems. They faltered, giving him the chance to escape. Jack, you see, Sigma's voice was awed, almost hesitant. Unknown abilities detected. They are remarkable. Jack didn't speak. He stared at the children, a mix of awe and responsibility washing over him. He had taken them in when they were deemed worthless, and now they were proving their worth in ways he could never have imagined. As the ship finally cleared the danger zone, Jack allowed himself a moment to breathe. The children curled up near the controls, exhausted but unafraid. He looked out at the stars, thinking of the phrase that had started it all. Take them, they're free and worthless. No life, he realized, was worthless. Not to humanity, not to him, and certainly not to the galaxy. Jack knew the journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with threats from those who sought to exploit the children and from the universe itself. But he also knew that together they could survive. More than that, they could thrive. As he drifted off to rest, the girl's small hand in his, Jack felt a rare sense of hope. The universe was vast, uncertain, and often cruel. Yet in the midst of it, he had found something worth fighting for, something priceless, and he would not let anyone or anything take it from him. The ship drifted quietly through the emptiness of space, but Jack could feel the tension in every corner. The two children, now asleep on soft mats he had prepared, seemed peaceful, yet their earlier display of abilities lingered in his mind. He had seen something extraordinary, something that no human or AI could easily explain. They were more than just survivors. They were beings with potential that could shape the future. Jack moved to the cockpit, scanning the surrounding sector. The scavenger fleet had been shaken off, but he knew they would not give up easily. Space was vast, but the cunning of those who preyed on the weak often found ways to track, to follow, to hunt. He had to be prepared. Sigma, plot a course to the outer rim. Remote station Alpha 9. Safe distance from major traffic, he instructed. Confirmed. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. Warning, outer rim sectors are poorly mapped. Unknown environmental hazards may exist, Sigma replied. Jack nodded. The outer rim would offer safety, at least for now. He leaned back in his chair, considering the children. The girl, who had shown the energy ability, was older, more aware of danger. The boy, though younger, displayed a quiet, intuitive intelligence that could rival the best human strategists if nurtured. As he monitored the ship, he reflected on the phrase that had changed everything. Take them, they're free and worthless. Whoever had abandoned them clearly believed they had no value, but Jack's experience taught him that every life had worth, even if others could not see it. By the time the ship neared Alpha 9, the children had awakened. Their eyes glimmered in the soft lighting of the cabin, reflecting curiosity and a sense of cautious trust. "Good morning," Jack said softly, crouching to meet their gaze. "We're almost there. You'll like it, it's safe, quiet, and no one will bother us." The girl tilted her head, studying him. She spoke in broken words, still learning human language. "Safe home." "Something like that," Jack replied. "A place where you can learn, play, and grow. No one will call you worthless there." The journey to Alpha 9 was uneventful at first, giving Jack time to observe the children. They were learning quickly, picking up human words and mimicking gestures. The girl, in particular, was fascinated by the ship's control panels. She would touch the screens, observing the glowing symbols, and sometimes, without prompting, small energy pulses would ripple from her hands. Jack had learned to keep a close eye on her abilities. They were powerful, unpredictable, yet harmless when controlled. The boy, on the other hand, spent time with Sigma. He would ask questions, gesture at the holographic maps, and seem to understand data that even some human crew members struggled with. Jack realized that these children were not just survivors, they were extraordinary. When the ship finally docked at Alpha 9, the station's outer bay welcomed them with silence. Unlike the bustling commercial hubs, Alpha 9 was sparsely populated, mostly used for research and safe storage. The few inhabitants were human, accustomed to the strange and unusual, yet even they paused when they saw the children. Jack led them off the ship, hands still gently holding theirs. The station's residents watched, some curious, some wary. Jack sensed the unspoken questions. Who are they? Where did they come from? Are they safe? "They're fine," Jack said firmly when asked. "Just unusual, that's all, trust me." Inside the station, Jack found a small living quarters for them, filled with simple comforts, beds, books, and interactive learning devices. The children explored eagerly, touching objects, testing textures, and observing their surroundings. Jack smiled, noting how quickly they adapted. "Stay close, okay?" he said, kneeling to speak to them directly. "This is your new home for now." The girl nodded, her small hand slipping into his. The boy clutched her sleeve, hesitant yet trusting. It was a fragile bond, but strong enough to form the foundation of a family, of sorts. Over the next few days, life at the station began to settle into a rhythm. The children learned quickly, absorbing human language, customs, and routines. They displayed incredible abilities, subtle at first, anticipating minor hazards, sensing shifts in the environment, and even manipulating small amounts of energy to aid in repairs and tasks. Jack watched in awe as they assisted the station crew, not out of obligation but curiosity and willingness to help. Then came the warning. A scout ship approached, sleek and fast. Jack recognized the markings immediately. The scavengers had not given up. They were clever, relentless, and now they had found the station. Sigma detected the ship's trajectory and calculated their approach vector. "They're coming closer," Sigma warned. "Estimated arrival in 30 minutes. Suggest immediate evacuation or defense." Jack's mind raced. Evacuation was an option, but it would leave the station vulnerable and the children exposed. Defense was risky, yet the station's systems could be used creatively. He turned to the children, kneeling beside them. "We might have company," he said. "Stay close, do exactly as I say. You trust me, right?" They nodded, eyes wide but unwavering. Jack could feel the trust radiating from them, a trust that was both a gift and a responsibility. When the scavenger ships arrived, the station's defenses automatically activated. Energy barriers shimmered across docking bays, and turrets swiveled to intercept. Jack guided the children to a safe observation area, but the girl's curiosity was fierce. She pressed her hands to the glass, watching the approaching ships. Then, as the first energy blast struck the station's outer wall, she reacted. A pulse of energy radiated from her hands, forming a protective field around the station's weaker defenses. The scavengers were momentarily thrown off, their targeting disrupted. Jack's heart pounded. The girl was not just helping, they were turning the tide. The boy, too, contributed. He accessed the station's control systems through Sigma, rerouting power to key defense points and unlocking strategic doors to trap incoming boarding parties. Jack could only marvel at their abilities, subtle, intelligent, and precise. Despite the danger, Jack remained calm. Years of experience had taught him that panic could ruin even the best strategy. He directed the station's crew with confidence, blending human ingenuity with the children's unique talents. Together, they formed a defense that no one would have predicted, human strategy amplified by extraordinary alien abilities. After several tense hours, the scavengers were forced to retreat, their ships damaged and disorganized. The station had held, and Jack knew it was largely because of the children. He approached them once the immediate danger passed. The girl looked up at him, small hands glowing faintly from her exertion. "You helped?" she asked. Jack smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "You helped us. You're amazing." The boy shyly smiled, eyes bright with pride. Jack felt a deep warmth, a recognition that he had chosen correctly in taking them in. Over the next weeks, the children continued to adapt, learn, and grow. They were no longer worthless in anyone's eyes. On the contrary, they became invaluable members of the station, bridging gaps between human technology and alien intuition. Jack taught them what he could, instilling human values, courage, empathy, and the importance of protecting life. And in return, they taught him patience, perspective, and the quiet power of trust. One evening, as the station hummed with quiet activity, Jack stood in the observation deck with the children at his sides. The stars stretched infinitely before them, a reminder of the vast, unknown universe. The girl whispered softly, still learning words but clear in meaning. "Jack, family," he looked at her, the boy, and the life they had built together. Despite the dangers, despite the uncertainty, the answer was clear. "Yes," he said firmly, "family." The galaxy was vast, filled with danger and mystery, but together they had found a place of safety, of trust, and of purpose. Jack realized then that humanity's true strength was not just in technology or combat skills. It was in empathy, courage, and the willingness to stand for what is right, even when the universe called it foolish. And as he looked at the children, once abandoned, once deemed worthless, he knew with certainty that he had saved not just their lives, but a future filled with potential, hope, and wonder. The station lights flickered gently, echoing softly in the silence of space. Jack held their small hands, feeling the warmth of trust and connection. Outside, the stars waited, vast and endless, but inside they had carved a universe of their own, one where life, no matter how small or abandoned, was priceless. And Jack would guard it with everything he had, for as long as he could.